those of you who don't know me, my name's Andrew Wingreen. Like Ashton said, I'm at Stetson, which is part of the Atlantic Sun Conference down in Florida. And I'll probably just start here, just share a little bit about my story, a little bit about my journey in coaching, just so you guys get a little bit of context of where I'm speaking from. And then I'll try and wrap it up with the challenge for you guys as far as how to, just go on this coaching journey with faith, because I know it's not always easy. But for me, I'll just start when I was an assistant coach at a small school in South Carolina, Bob Jones University, and I was an assistant there for 5 years. And I was in the running to be the next head coach. Our head coach was stepping down. He was going to be the athletic director. So I'd interviewed for this position for it'd probably be about 3.5 or 4 months, and came down to, working with committees and going through the final process. And one day our athletic director said he wanted to meet with me at Starbucks. And I went into this meeting thinking I was going to be the next head coach, and he was going to tell me that, but it was the complete opposite. He told me that they decided not to make me the head coach, and they were also taking away the assistant position, because my assistant position was going to be the new head coach, his paycheck and his position. So they terminated me, and I was fired. And that was the first time I had ever had to go through something like that. And it was, had a young family at the time. I still have a young family, but really young family at the time, renting a house, weren't really sure what we were going to do. And we went on, met a couple at a marriage retreat whose son was taking over a program up in Indiana at Bethel College, now Bethel University. So we went up there, not really knowing anything about the position, not really knowing anything about the area, not having any friends up there. And we just kind of went up there and took this position because it was the only thing that we could find that was available and that we could get. So went up there, and again, making less money, not making a whole lot. And God was just working in our hearts. It was a trial. It was tough. The season probably didn't go as smoothly as we would have liked. And it was just busy. It was a busy time of our lives. So we were there for 1 year, and I had been approached about a head coaching position at a Division III school in Pennsylvania, Lancaster Bible College. And I pursued that, ended up making the final two, went out there for in-person interviews, and ended up getting the head coaching position. So last year I was at Lancaster Bible College, had a great season, winning record, made it to the semifinals of our conference tournament. We actually lost just a few games that could have really had a good record if it wasn't for a couple buzzer beater shots that we lost on. Thought it was a really good year. We loved it there. We enjoyed it. But I also had a couple kids on our team who had a relationship with the man that was my boss. They were his sons, and it didn't go as smoothly with them, and ended up basically agreeing to resign my position up at Lancaster just because there was a lot of behind the scenes stuff that just was not enjoyable to work with. And again, facing just 2 years later, another really tough situation with a young family. What are we going to do? Where are we going to go? How is this going to work? And again, had a couple other job offers, places where I didn't have great relationships, but could have had a job. But God opened up this door to be at Stetson with Coach Jones and Brendan Sir. And it's been awesome just learning from these guys. It's like a PhD in coaching every single day with these guys. So that's just a really brief nutshell of my story. But what I kind of wanted to go to was there's really been 2 points in my coaching career that have challenged my faith and have really brought a lot of adversity, a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety. And the first one was when I lost my job at Bob Jones, because I was blindsided by it. I had no idea it was coming, and I really didn't know what to do. It was my first time going through it, and I wrestled with doubt. I wrestled with insecurity, wrestled with all these things. Like, what are we going to do? How am I going to make money? How am I going to provide food for my family? My wife's not working at the time. We got 2 kids. And faith had to become a part of my life, but I didn't really know how to do that. And with the help of some mentors, the first thing I would say is make sure you guys have mentors around you, ones who love God, who have been there, who have done that can give you great advice. Because without some of those people in my life, I'm not sure where I would have been. But one person told me, look, either God is sovereign or he isn't. he's sovereign or he isn't. And I had to, that really challenged my thinking of, am I going to trust God's plan that he has this figured out, that he has it under control, or am I going to try and do this by myself? And just having that simple theology in my life of the sovereignty of God really catapulted me towards, having my faith journey go in the right direction. You guys have heard this quote before. You can't always control your circumstances, but you can always control how to respond to it. And at that moment, I had a choice of how I was going to respond. And thankfully, again, I chose faith and chose to go down this journey. But a couple things, let me put my notes here. A couple things I want to share, just how do we live this faith journey in our coaching walk, and how does it even apply? But, want to share a couple verses with you. And Ashton, can I actually share a screen? Is that fine? Or no?
Yes, let me.
If not, it's not a big deal.
Here you go.
I think you should be. I can just talk about them. Okay. I just had a couple verses I want to share with you guys. Can you guys all see that? Is that my desktop or?
No, I can see the quote.
Okay. So just, you guys all have heard Proverbs 3, 5, and 6, trust in the Lord with all your heart, lean not to your own understanding, acknowledge him in all your ways, and he will direct your paths. And sometimes, for me, I always stopped at verse 6, and I didn't always go on to verse 7 where it says, we have to be wise. We have to use our wisdom, and we have to fear the Lord. And I think that really triggered this thought in my mind of how to pursue this journey of faith. And it was that we have to think about it. It's always on our mind. We're thinking, how do we find a job? Who do we have to talk to? What do we have to do next? But then the next thing is we have to pray about it. You think about it, but then you got to pray about it. And eventually you need to act on it. And that's where our faith comes into play. And just because something doesn't happen the way that we want it to, doesn't mean that God isn't working. And I had to go back to that thought constantly because, again, some of you guys, I don't know all your journeys. Some of you are just trying to get into coaching. Some of you may be in a position where you have lost a job before. I don't know where that exactly is, but I know for me, things always went smoothly. I started my coaching career, went really smoothly. Everything, I thought I was going to be a head coach. And then all of a sudden, it didn't go the way I wanted it to. And I had to keep reminding myself that doesn't mean God's not working, and that doesn't mean it's all going to go poorly, but just had to continue to dig in the word and read those things. Another thing that I think is really important that we focus on in our faith journey, is first from 2 Timothy, for God gave a spirit of fear, not of fear, but of power and of love and of self-control. It's really easy to kind of give into that doubt and to mentally let yourself break down. And if we don't have a rock to stand on, if we don't have that word in our lives, that's not going to go very well for us. But just understanding that God's given us this spirit, and it's this one of, an intense resiliency that we can focus on others. It says loving and, focus our attention on loving, serving, and caring. And that was something I had to do as well, was get my mind off myself and my circumstance, but make sure that I thought of other people first. One quote, or not really a quote, but a saying that I have hanging on our wall here in the house is love God, love people. And sometimes it's really hard to do both of those things. Sometimes it's easy to do one or the other, but it's really, really hard to do both. And just having that focus of loving God and loving people, when you take your eyes off yourself and, especially during the hard times, it's easy during the good times, but in the hard times, taking your eyes off of yourself and not playing poor me or anything like that, it really helps us grow in our faith. Sorry. Another verse that always went through my head during this time was, James 1:2-8, where it says, count it all joy. These trials, they're going to come, we're going to be tested, but that's going to produce steadfastness or perseverance. And, in my case, it was my first time, and really, whether it's your first time or not, you lack wisdom. You don't know what to do next. You don't know how a job hunt's going to go. You don't know how you're going to put food on the table. You don't know any of that stuff, but you lack wisdom. But you need to ask of God in faith. And that, again, knowing that he's sovereign and he has it under control, we can ask that with a lot of confidence. But again, it's an opportunity for joy and for us to, just work with people to find the good in it, to sorry, I don't have my mouse here. I'm going to stop my screen share. But just finding joy in these trials. And I think, faith kind of serves two purposes, or I don't know if you really want to say two purposes or two things, but, one, faith is a radar. It shows us how we can get through the fog, because a lot of times when you don't know what's next, again, despite what the circumstances, when you don't know what's next or how to get there, you got to have something that leads you through. And that's God's word. That's the faith that we have through prayer, through thinking, through mentorship, through small groups, however you can get that. But faith is a radar that helps us see through the fog. And two, faith is the key to the door that unlocks opportunity. All the opportunities that I've had, some have been really good and some of them have been really tough, but through it all, faith has been the key that's just unlocked that next opportunity. And it's really neat, no matter what's happened, to see how God has worked in my life, how he's worked in my heart, how he's worked through these tough times to impact people. And it's, so cool to see people come back and just share those things with you as a coach. So I know that's not anything too earth shaking or groundbreaking, but your faith is so important, because what you guys do as young coaches and how you guys approach every situation, you have to make sure God's in it. And you have to really ask yourself, do I love, for me, I had a dream, and I still do, of being the best coach I can be, coaching at the Division I level as a head coach. That's my dream. I want to win a national championship. I want to do all these things. But do I love the dream that God gave me more, or do I love the God that gives me the dream more? And that perspective that you have, which with which one comes first? Do I love the dream or do I love God more? And I think as a young coach, I had those backwards. I was pursuing a dream. I was pursuing the work. I was pursuing this and that. And it doesn't lead to success. And it can break you in a lot of ways. But through the adversity, when I was challenged to have faith, and I had no other option but then to have faith, that's when you start switching your perspective and you realize, God is the one that opens these doors. God is the one that gives and takes away. God is the one who I need to give my life for. God is the one, I need to coach for, and I need to impact people for. So just make sure, you have your perspective straight with, why do you coach? Why do you do what you do? Is it for notoriety? Is it for success? Is it for attention? Or is it for God to be glorified and people to be impacted for the gospel? And, for me, it wasn't always easy, and it's still not. It's an everyday choice. I need the gospel daily, and I need to walk this faith journey every single day. And it's got to be a conscious effort. We have to respond to it every single day. So I just want to challenge you with that. Hopefully, it's simple, but that you guys can just have that in the back of your mind of, God is sovereign and he's got it under control. So with whatever you guys do, just make sure you do it with faith and do it with a desire to please him and glorify him.